continue to be so because a third party is immediately starting to ruin all this fun.
Noah plays showing that he continuously is improving himself off these draw spawn fights, right? Last season, we saw a little bit of Noah plays Chaos and Kaz's. Now we're seeing them kind of return here and looking to be in pretty decent form. However, can't time that third party any better than that. That team is going to be pretty happy about this quick pickup here. Kaz is going for a very risky potential pickup there. We'll see if that ends up being successful. Here's the man of the hour. Azers, Acorn, and Boyo, this team right here, of course, set up to succeed here in this lobby. One of the few teams that we do know, of course, will be in attendance of the Global Championship, but we all know every season there's a lot on the line.
It's just constantly changing, and that Seaport fight, you know, if you look at the drop map before the tournament actually started, kind of was supposed to be uncontested, so already things changing up before game one as it starts. As you see, brutal boxcars, the mountain that a lot of teams kind of hunt for Surge is already going to be occupied by 2 different teams, just showing how proactive everybody is trying to be in order to get that Surge, because it allows for a lot of flexibility in your game plan. We saw it throughout last weekend's Group 1. We saw it yesterday in Group 2. If you have a lot of Storm Surge, you're going to have a lot of flexibility. As we jump on board, Sphinx, Kanata bolts uncontested at Hopeful Heights, which means they get the surrounding land as well.
Definitely a pretty solid draw spot for them right here. Plenty of territory to work with. Teams contested off to the north make this even better for them for their rotates a little later on. We'll see how that ends up happening out. Getting back to Noah and Kaz is here, so unsuccessful with the pickup at the reboot van. Seems like them sticking around has given Mike, Dom, and Logan the chance and the opportunity to go ahead and take this fight on favorable terms for themselves. And I genuinely expected them to give it up, right? Maybe you would have thought that they would have kind of backed out, but Logan putting up a great fight there. We'll end up winning it. Trades on Noah's side. Unfortunately, gets him sent right back to lobby, and we'll just have to hype him up for the next game. Round 1 for now is over for them. But hey, it happens to the best of us, right? Can't make the best decisions all the time. Sometimes you got to risk it. In the end, Noah's going to have to hit the evaluation board on that one.
Yeah, going in, the Tyler are uncontested, so at least now going into the next 4 games, they're a little bit more prepared of what's to come. Aoxy, Jojo, Fishy, and Pikes are one of only 2 trios in this lobby who played together in last season's finals. And you know, one of the other teams yesterday that stayed together but ended up reforming before play-ins, that was our game 1 winner, Muzz, Yapko, and Rise yesterday. So hopefully a lot of that chemistry, being able to build it over months' time, really proves to be worth it in the end as we continue to jump around a lot of these early game fights. And already today in this Group 3 monster, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like the action is flowing just a little bit more quickly than our previous 2 other groups.
Yeah, things are off to a pretty fast start, if I do say so myself. Look, 3 teams already taken out, sent back to lobby, and I mean, we're just touching zone number 2, so the action is definitely on par for the course here. Take a look at on-site Skizor. Looking pretty well on-site, playing these side angles here, fishing for quick tags. Meanwhile, let's call him Triple Low, looking for anything on his side.
Yeah, and they know, being this isolated at the map, especially on the south side, just outside of Shogun Solitude, Canyons Crossing, a lot of teams that desperately need Surge will begin to try to hover over areas like this to try to look off the mountainside. So I agree with their idea. Scissor on site, and I think that might be Hido going to choose to kind of disengage, especially with the zone moving towards the north. They can think, hey, we positioned well, we played it smart, we get a good spot in towards zone, that Surge will be able to come to us with a well-placed Surge tower.
Yeah, both teams opting to go ahead and move out there. Ooh. Nice little tag here. So Laze's trio unsuccessful after winning their drop fight. Taken down pretty quickly by that Whiffy Wharf team, so they didn't let up the pursuit here. Kind of lingering in this area. Bullcut Tyler's team as well haven't quite disappeared just yet either. That's going to be kind of a raging dynamic for the next several games. You can see starting to formulate there. Meanwhile, Dash, Seek, and Veer, very experienced trio, right? One of the few that do have those reps in these types of settings. Are taking control of the Seaport City. This is a great place to find tags. They have controlled the high ground as well. It's the most prime position to be in for the time being here.
Well, it is still pretty early. I think they land over towards the Kappa Kappa factory, and that's where they're kind of rotating in, following the zone towards the north. My only question is how much Storm Surge they currently had. It's going to be early for that one to pop, but it's always a question in the back of a lot of teams' minds. There's another fight breaking out just north of where that seaport actually is. Taxi, Roxanne, and Tenke just kind of pressure into this box fight, trading shots, trying to get the surge. They see the men miss smoke go down on the other side, and that's kind of a big sign of weakness as they continue to try to get their HP up. Splash is going down simultaneously for the shield, just trying to make sure that they don't give any open opportunities with a knock.
Yeah, Phenom looking for an angle here. Daxty's going to get tagged first. Things starting to turn around here for Tonkacito's trio. And do notice there's one trio in the distance, just kind of watching what's unfolding here, but there's such a huge catacomb of builds right now. I don't expect them to jump in.
It's one of those situations, whoever has their backside to that zone is going to be the main targets if those boxes break through. But you see the natural hill on that side of the map covering up some of it. So it's not going to be as easy of an angle that they have, and you see that second player of that third party starting to look elsewhere. He doesn't want to waste too much time. They are spread out. They are trying to get surge, maybe even trying to farm up just a little bit inside of Brutal Boxcars, as this fight is going to slow down. And I like the decision for both of these teams to kind of disengage, because you saw the resources. They do have heals, but it's the materials that they're lacking, and it's a heavy lack of materials.
Well, the action's still continuing here on the east, now on the west. Carbon, Andrew, Baloney in a fight up against Rayboard, KSM, and Liquid on the other side here. This is gonna really end up pushing the surge pretty high now, though, as it does seem like this fights, right, are not coming to an end for most of these trios. Even this one here, really, I think almost telling, right, of the type of roster that we have. There's a lot of players that this is for their first time, maybe a chance, right, at making it to a grand finals lobby. So we're seeing a lot of disengages, a lot of fights not necessarily find their way to a conclusion, and that's gonna have its effect here.
Yeah, I think a lot of players that don't necessarily know what it feels like, just kind of trying to play it very, very carefully, especially when those resource count starts to dwindle. You saw a lot of materials in those stacks fight going right out of the window, and they're kind of forced in this situation. If I stay here much longer, more teams will come in. It'll make it exponentially harder not only to get the surge, but to disengage when they finally want to. So you're seeing a lot of those early decisions coming out, and it's obviously going in the hand of disengage. 82 players still left alive, 28 teams still left in this. And if it continues in this trend, Monster, we're going to see Storm Surge earlier and sooner than later in this altercation. If you're not prepared and you don't have that surge, it is not going to be easy to survive.
Well, yeah, Acorn and Agers talking about surge. They need to do something big here as well. They found themselves already on top of this congested seaport city here. There was several teams already in a standoff. Agers the first to cut past them, so they're going to put some teams in between them now, but we'll see.
They should run through this lobby.
Oyo's got full sight lines on this trio here. They know he's there as well. Just taunting at the moment.
And this has kind of been the strategy for Acorn, Agers, and Poyo almost all season long. Since kind of reforming, Poyo joining the boys back, is they land Mass Meadows uncontested. They may not necessarily get everything they want out of the black market, but they're able to use the black market with all of that gold. They're able to hover back and stay in zone much longer than a lot of these other teams because they have a lot of those extra resources. And that's what they do. As soon as teams are rotating in, trying to find their way towards zone, that's when they start to peak the shots. And that's why you see Agers currently going for elevation on the top of Seaport City, because they know they can outlast them in the zone if it comes down to it.
Take a look at this. On tight Skizor end up pushing this team off the high ground. Off they go with the kneecappers. Quick rotate, quick disengage happening here, but this is all storm action right now, and you can see the effects of the surge potentially looming about. Never mind, those are just artifacts of the storm there.
Yeah, another team that's just basically at the mercy of that black market surge base. They're going to have to figure out if they want to go west around it, then kind of move north, if they want to go east and then move north there. But if they go east, there's a lot more teams stacked up on that side of the lobby. Decisions, and those are little intricacies that are breaking out as Kanata, Bolts, Sphinx finding their way up towards Pump Power. Not in the zone just yet. Kind of biding their time, and I like this trio. You got Kanata, who's kind of a flex, you know, his solo prowess and how aggressive he can be. Bolts winning solo championships, winning the FNCS major right before West turned into Central, reunited on this team with Sphinx. Probably, I think, one of the most unsung heroes when it comes to IGLs. He's won games on the biggest stage, including the Global Championship of years past, and kind of bring it all together, a little bit of practice. This is a team, I feel like, no worries today making that finals. Number 26 for Kanata.
Yeah, very interesting trio dynamic there. We definitely have what I would say is, you know, 3 players that are extremely competent, right? They've all had their moments at the top, all right? And that's what is going to be the makings of a top-tier team, someone that actually is going to give us a run for the money, if you will, come the final setting. This is a team you want us to look at, too, though. We got to continue to keep our eyes on Dave's trio. On the other side, we have Edge here with Crook, Bobby, just outside the Magic Mosses, just kind of hanging out. Huge base situated here. They have eyes on the reboot van, trying to see if anyone's looking to go get a cheeky little pickup. They're here to catch them out the sky.
Yeah, early investment in this positioning is going to be kind of fruitful for them because a lot of the teams are going to have to rotate in. You see Reet, Curly, Cooper doing the same thing, spreading out their surge bases. That way they can cover more ground. HQ, Vantage, Decrypt. They're another one of those teams, 259 above the damage threshold. They're going to have to look over towards the west because you see 2 different teams on top of that mountain, which they know will be ill-advised to try to challenge them for surge.
Opening just yet. Drum gun, the only weapon for Cube to find and fish for tags, is not the best option, but is what it is. We'll see if they end up rotating sooner rather than later. Let's get a first look at Coop and Reet here. Wow. Playing the Flooded Frogs, pretty spread out. Huge surge damage already somehow accumulated just off of their drop.
1,400 above is shit ton.
I mean, we did see a house stack. The north side of the map was from split drops to Whiffy Wharfs. That's just west of where they actually land. And if you see that surge base on top of an already built tower, especially Reet and Curly stretching out on the other side, they're just kind of content. Uncontested Flooded Frog zone moving in their favor. They really haven't been tested in game number 1 so far, which could be a blessing, could be a curse, depending on how this one plays out. As it does look like a knockdown's coming in. They're trying to chop it all the way down to size, but I don't think there's enough distance to them with the high ground, so not enough fall damage. The shots continue to pour in. Zolpic's getting dropped down. 50 shield gone, but his teammate Brutal is the one that desperately needs the help because he has no shield at all.
Yeah, they do end up catching one of those trios there. Getting a little bit of a knock, but it seems like already the recovery was so fast. And this is just going back and forth right here. Zolpix Brutal users just trying their best right now. Talk about a commitment though, Zolpix. Brutal. This trio doesn't really have a lot of mats, so they've kind of spent a lot. And just looking at the map, there is so much happening here. It's just going to be a matter of moments between before another team potentially decides to jump in. But look, Chris is going to be the first of the casualties here. It's Danger Biggest 5 who's kind of playing the low ground right now, but their team's below the surge, so they will be forced to do something here. Brutal's team's got what they wanted from this. Quick elimination, couple pickups, and the damage most importantly. And look, they're off to the races. Try to farm up potentially some more mats and really just play for mids and end game.
Yeah, the zone's just pulling further and further north. I will say the blessing for Wager and Danger is they have a chance to get Chris back up with that reboot card with the zone continuously pulling past Brutal boxcars. That's going to be their only real opportunity to get him back because it's relatively early in the game. Only 1 storm damage right now. It is going to transform into 2, so it's almost a now or never situation. You add on the fact they're currently above the damage threshold, and it is going to be the first attempt, but I think that garnered the attention of JoJo, Fishy, and Aoxy.
I gotta say, WagerBot doing pretty good right there, finding the tags. That is the make or break moment right there. Critical moment in this game here. given that their team were desperate for the damage, but oh, not looking good here for Zolpix's trio. They were the first to rotate, but they had Dave's trio hot on their heels, and seems like they found an opportunity, found a knock, but look at this. It was all for the Surge, almost forced into a fight and then sent back to the lobby. So just like that, Surge starts to determine the fate for some. Even a team as good as Dave's trio there. Diego plays trio. Jacob is also below the Surge here, and it's costing them a lot. You can see it weighing heavily on their HP counts right now.
You're almost seeing why a lot of these teams are taking that early risk to box fight, because they don't want to end up in this situation with Surge really deciding your entire game plan here with the zones moving further and further away. That is going to be a max pull. Sprite, or they have 575 and counting above the damage threshold. They just need to figure out a way out of this situation, especially as a duo. It's not going to get easier, but Diego, Ralphie able to find a knock onto one. Fred goes down though, so they lose at least one of their teammates. But there might be a chance if they have the med miss smoke and extra splashes to go for the double revive. But with the zone currently moving, I'm not sure this is going to be a win-win situation for anybody on this side of the zone.
Yeah, they did just enough to kind of ease up the Surge, but then they fall quickly right below. So they have to rotate not only to the safety, but there are a lot of teams kind of in between them and that new safety line. Look, they're just flirting with the threshold right now. Not a great spot to be in by any means. Heals already exhausted, what looks to be from all the trios there.
The only saving grace on this side of the map is if you so happen to have some extra change in your pocket in the form of gold, you can enter into that black market. There's med kits, there's splashes, there's possible HP, and he does have 124, barely not enough. He has to ask for a little bit of extra change on the side.
Oh,
they're looking for scraps. They did find one splash, but a tick is going to be a 5 tick. There's almost no hope at survival.
No.
They're going to have to go for team revives, and that's going to be the only hope. But no, now active Storm Surge every 7 seconds. 25 damage. Fred tried to go in, but he doesn't find everything.
Oh, you gotta know better than that. With the storm rolling over, this Surge turning back on, that was a brutal mistake to try to get the pickup. I get it though, right? Like, you want to have your 3-man team. You're so close to safety. You have splashes in the inventory, but my gosh, that zone was just eating them alive. Well, Diego's gonna have to live with that one. They earned a couple of points that game, so it wasn't a zero-sum game, but still one of the 5 prestigious rounds now gone. And that's one thing to think about. We don't really emphasize enough here on the broadcast. You really don't have many chances. 5 games is not a lot. You see how fast the show starts, and then all of a sudden it's over. The same can be said for the players. They only get a few opportunities here and now, and the pressure is on to continue to compete. But looking at Kanata, looking at Bose, looking at Sphinx, much different story for this team. They have the mats, they have the heals, they have the positioning here. And this is looking like a great game for them.
Yeah, good chances at shots. Knowing the zone is pulling from the north, making teams rotate to the south. A lot of them having to rotate into bolts, Kanata and Sphinx. And even though they're not hitting max shots, max spreads by any means, they're keeping it moving forward in terms of Storm Surge. Even looking like they're going to try to position a drop down onto one of those teams if they do get the green light in terms of damage. Polar's able to get another elimination as we jump on Pollo, Acorn, and Angers, who are barely 57 above the threshold. But where some teams will start to get a little bit worried, try to force a fight just so they can get Surge, they have Acorn on the team. He is calculating this one every step of the way, including where this next zone is going to rotate. And I think they're going to try to go all the way towards the left side of the zone and follow the one team in front of them.
Yeah, no one likes to be 93 above the Surge, though. So they are recognizing, hey, they could be the one team separating themselves between being below. Wagers Bots trio is going to be moving pretty quickly here. One of the first to take the jump. So Acorn's trio tailing behind have a free rotate due to this. Wagers knew there was a team behind them, trying to get eyes, but didn't quite get the spot out. But I'd say his instincts are dead on. There's for sure a team behind them, whether he knows it or not at this moment.
Just kind of staggering. Seeing the differences a lot of these teams, some barely above Surge. 492 though for Reek, Kook, Carly. Proactivity early in the game has freed up a lot of space and freedom for what they're able to do as Rojos get targeted down below. No damage going in yet, but they see that he's a solo, and they're probably seeing if we get some damage, we get some weakness, we could try to jump on this situation, but they're biding their time. They know how many other teams are rotating in this position. They wait till they fully get that elimination, the loot drops, and then they go in and try to scrounge it up to themselves. They know they want to keep their material count throughout these moving zones as high as possible so they don't have to worry.
Yeah, right now, all of our big name teams are looking to get very much situated here as we expect.
Let's go, Coop.
Game, so it's going to become a pretty big clash against the names that we know and love. But wait a second, Boyo falls there on the rotate. There might have spoken a little too soon, but
Boyo, no.
And Kingaling, so far pretty well for them here. Take a look at the replay, how it all unfolded. Acorn takes a fight against Chris here. Dangers and Boyo there. Gets them a little bit of, you know,
nice
refresh there. However, it's at the cost of losing Boyo there on the outside of the storm.
Just seeing, even if you're above Surge, you're never safe because Chris, that was a part of the team. We saw them go down early. We saw Chris get rebooted, and so they were low on Surge. They had to take the first fight, and it was so far out of zone. They thought it was a good idea, even with, I do believe, Agers and Acorn surviving in that moment. That put him in such a terrible position. And see the high ground's one thing, down low it's Sphinx,
come on, Bolts.
Kanata, just trying to dominate the front side of the zone, making sure they keep full control over that space and really not anybody pass them.
Playing front side right now. No teams out here contesting Bolts' trio. Kanata freely being able to target the high ground tart there. And you see it breaks it all down. So hundreds and hundreds of material count going to waste here. Now forcing other teams to start to look up. So they've effectively helped determine that high ground team's
Kanata's a beast.
Moment, costing them more than half of their material count, more than half of their territory as well. And pressure coming from the low ground here. Curly's team is actually second height at the moment. Pay close attention here to how this is going to end up playing out. Kanata's team continuing to trail to the front side of zone. No one playing low ground on top of them, so they really don't have much worries here.
Yeah, and even though they're not able to chop down height yet,
everyone's coming down.
Materials, making it easy if somebody wants to challenge. A Cynics is going to go down. Big shot by Kanata. Not able to clean it up just yet, but as he does, he gets the loot. Cooper, Reed, Curly, even though they might have been second height, but they're just making sure to follow that path, lead the charge as they find another elimination, but they're looking for more. Tyler gets caught off guard. He's trying to climb up the wall, but he ends up getting taken down nonetheless as Reed, Coop, Curly continue to go on a roll.
Huge set of mats right there, dropping from Tyler's body as well. It's going to give them more opportunity. More
laser at Bolts, come on.
Kanata, Bolts, and Sphinx have
there it is, there it is, there it is. Lasered. Woo!
Their mats over and over. Think about how this continues to expend this high ground team's material count. Look, King down to just 30 mats now.
Shout out to Turtle Girl for watching the stream. Thank you, Turtle Girl.
Coming from Kanata's trio, so from what looked to be a winning position, now gives Coop, Curly, and Reed's team a chance at success here, a chance to win the game from height. Almost gifted to them at this moment here, but Kanata's trio, because no pressure's down here on the low ground, they keep targeting these high ground trios. In the end, they might just have more material count to win this game.
It's almost like they're baiting it. Go ahead, take that high ground, because it's two different teams that become the target. But Cooper, Reed, Curly, they might have noticed the dangers that mood on the front side of the zone, and they start to target them down below, but it slows down, which leaves Kanata to get an elimination, but that's going to be two. Even Crook going down to the backside, and that's going to be a lot of loot that they're picking up that allows them to claim space on the low ground. Even with double med miss smokes going down, that's HP. That's multiple win conditions, Monster.
3 teams left.
Come
on, Bolts.
Off the high ground team, so Reach Trio is now starting to situate here, but look, Coop's out of math, so they're gonna have to make a desperate low ground attempt here, or fish for some of the siphon pickups, and look at whose team's still alive. The original high ground holders of King's team is still at the front side of zone. Medmiss allowing Kanata's team to play backside, and they have the mats to go for a little bit of a high ground. Bolts is gonna be the last to swing for it, and he gets it. Front side with Kanata now. They're in control, but they lose Sphinx in the mix here.
This is big because they played it perfect with double med miss smokes, waiting to that last second to come out of zone, and they let those two teams fight. They clash, and now it's definitely theirs for the taking, but you see them taking their time. Two teams down below. Double kneecappers come down, and Coop's now a solo in a tough situation. King goes down to the backside. Chargo's just trying to run away, play the heel off scenario, and the chase is
Coop going to get the 1v2?
1v1. Cooper gets the elimination.
Here it is. Oh my goodness. An all Dignitas team. Or finish. Here we go. Hold on, Coop. Oh!